Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Ronald, and in this video I'm going to do something a little bit more experimental. I would like to start the X-ray series, and an X-ray is like seeing through a body and seeing all the bones that are below the skin, below what you can see. And I would like to figure out and just analyze, in this case Google, to see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. In terms of like design, money, business model, and lots of those type of things. I've made a little overview of what I want to get through. This is kind of more or less to get an idea of what to expect from this video. And so first of all, I would like to start with the design of things. And as virtual tour creators in 360 world, we tend to start a virtual tour with a panorama. And what I find so fascinating about Google Maps and / Google Streetview, which is basically the largest virtual tour in the world that I'm aware of, what they're doing is that they do not start with a panorama, because where would you start? What would be your starting panorama? So that's something to keep in mind. Like, you go to Google Maps and you type in maps.google.com or something like that, and you go to here. So what do you see? First of all, cookie banner when the first time you enter the URL. I always click reject all, because I like to keep my data as much as possible private, but a lot of people click accept all, and that's how Google already makes a ton of money by just that first decision that people are making. And there's not really a reason to click on accept all, but we think we need to accept, but we can reject a lot of cookies. So that's first the things, and to get an idea what happens with your data. When you just click accept all, it goes into your search customization, ad personalization. I mean, Google is like one company, and it has, I don't know how many products. Google Maps is one of the products that Google has to offer. When you're signing in into your Google account and you're searching on Google search, then all that data is connected to your Google Maps search, is connected to your Google shopping stuff, is connected to your navigation on your phone when you go to some place on Google Maps. All of these things are all connected to the same account. This is one of the biggest things of Google, of like how all the data is connected, is single sign-on, SSO. So you get a new device, you buy a new iPhone or whatever, and then you need to log in with your Google account in order to use something. And from that moment on, you log in, and that happened maybe years ago, but you're never going to log out again and logging in again. So you're not even aware that you're being tracked by Google when you're using their products. At least a lot of people are not. When you're already in your Google Maps on your phone, then you're, by default, everyone's logged in. While you can do Google Maps as an incognito and keep at least some data to yourself, even though your IP address, but that's another story. I'm gonna go a lot of ways with this video. Bear with me on that, or not, and just click away and cancel this video. Go watch something else. So those are some those are some things about like the first steps that you're doing already by the cookies and signing in. Signing in is like signing a contract. So you're signing a contract to provide data to Google. Or logging in, you're logging all your data as you're being logged in. Something to keep in mind. Now, that's the first part of things, right? Now, second part is, okay, you're entering Google Maps, then there's a few things that are happening. First of all, the language. So based on your IP address that you're surfing with on your computer, it will detect which country it is, and it will set the language based on your IP address. In this case, I've already set this to English for the purpose of this video, but in this screenshot over here, you can see this is in Dutch. Zoeken in Google Maps, dit gedeelte, typische verkeerssituatie, Okay, Dutch, yeah? This is, I've set it custom to English. So language, that's one thing that happens on initialization of opening Google Maps. Another thing that happens on initialization of opening Google Maps is your first location. So based on your IP address, it will estimate where you're located, and that will show you the country you're in. Right now I've used a VPN to log in into the Netherlands, and you see that I'm getting the Netherlands to see over here. And actually, when I open this up again, and I'll close this one. Yeah, so this is what we see on the beginning. So language is set. In this case, Google is remembering that I've set it custom to English. And the location is set. So some things that we see when we enter this in incognito. In incognito, it's you're signed out, but when you're going to Google Maps, you'll very likely be signed in already, and you'll see your profile picture on the top here. The stuff that we see the map. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can go over this canvas. Something that I find very interesting is some other tools that are using canvases, they use the space and then with the mouse to drag over something like this, and they use command and scroll to zoom in and out. While Google is just only doing this with the mouse with no command or space bar to do this. That's something to keep in mind as in terms of like, how do these things work? That's what I'm trying to conceptualize with this video. So you're zooming in and you see more and more information. So the idea behind this is that back in the days, in 1991 I believe, there was a company, a German company, according to the $1 billion code, which I'll get to very soon as well. A German company, TerraVision, from Art.com is the company, TerraVision is the product that they came up with, and what they wanted to do is they wanted to load in the whole world map and be able to be like a Superman to zoom into wherever you're located, no matter where you are in the world. So I go over here, and well, I mean, here I'm into Belgica. So like, can you zoom all the way in? Now I'm using here the maps and not the Earth, and actually with TerraVision it's more about Google Earth, zooming in and even having a 3D world of things. So they wanted to have this, and in 1991 that meant that you needed to have all the satellite images. That's one thing, and another thing is when you have the satellite image of like the whole world zoomed in on the deepest level you can get, like this, and that of the whole world, that means a gigantic image. This is how it was back in the days, and the main challenge that they were having at that time was how to load in the whole map at once on a device, preferably not a supercomputer, but at the time they needed to do the stuff with supercomputers before they figured out that they could divide all these things into tiles. So just like a tree has like a trunk, and then branches, and then branches on the branches, and then branches on the branches of the branches, so all these different levels. And based on where you're interested in, you see, when you look close enough, you see the little black spots loading in when I go fast enough. So it's loading in the tiles of what you're requesting as a user. So it does not need to load in all the things that you're not interested in. So I'm not zooming into Saudi Arabia, but I'm zooming in into Egypt. So now it's getting this data as I'm zooming in. So that is technically what the challenges were back in the days to figure out how to do something like this in the first place. Now we get more used to tiles and stuff and loading these type of things in. Now living in 2024. And back in the days that was a huge challenge. Very interesting mini-series documentary to watch, and how that works with Google, and it's very much related between like what Google and TerraVision and Art.com, what they were doing and how they were dealing with knowledge and stuff. Very interesting stuff to watch, and what they're explaining in the series as well is how they make the money with a product that is for free, because nobody is directly paying for Google Maps. And that's something that a lot of people do not really understand, how Google Maps is making so much money, while you never see something like pay €1 to see Greece or something like that. And that all these payments and things have to do with all your data that they're collecting and how they're reselling your data, and how that's the whole story. So watch $1 Billion Code, highly recommend that. Now, getting back to this, I mean, Google is making about $4.3 billion a year, according to one of those things that I've just found on the internet, Camel Frank or something, in which 3.5 billion a year is from local ads, and there is something with the Google Maps API that they're making 800 million a year with. And these numbers, like 4.3 billion US dollars, is still 1.4% of Google's total revenue. So to put things a little bit in perspective, and I believe Matterport is around 150 million US dollars a year. So Matterport is still a very small player compared to Google in this thing. When we're talking about the creation of virtual tours and virtual tour industry, Google's the biggest one. I think then Matterport might come, or Apple Maps, I'm not sure. But in any case, not the point. It's just trying to put things a little bit in perspective of what's happening and how many monthly active users they have. They have, according to some source, 1 billion monthly active users. That's 1/8 of the whole world. And I'd assume that it's mainly people from Europe and US using it, and not so much from Russia or Mongolia or Kazakhstan or Africa. I mean, probably everywhere there are people using it, but I don't know. That's just my rough assumptions here. Let's see. Yeah, so that's about money. And what I find fascinating, let's see. Those are things that I find fascinating. And what I then find fascinating is to try to look at Google Maps and how their interface is actually looking like, and what we as individual creators or small companies or medium companies, which are, I don't know, but what we can learn from a player like Google. And so one of the first things that I already mentioned is, well, okay, there's language set according to your IP address. There is, based on your IP address, the relevance of the location, where you need to, what's relevant to you. And then the tile system to zoom in, to zoom out, to go to the left or right, all those type of things. Now, when we get to something like Apeldoorn, and then I'm going to put this back to this map. I like this one better. It's more clean, it's more organized. And those are things that are important as we speak, to like have these ideas of like, okay, how much information do you need to show? And when I'm zooming in, let's see, when I'm zooming out, I do not see these filters that we just saw. But when I'm zooming in, at a certain point, these filters start to appear. Where are the restaurants, hotels, things to do, museums, transit, pharmacies, ATMs. This is something we as virtual tour creators can do. We can create these type of filters, and for the Vista you can do something like show hide everything with a tag that is tag restaurant. We click on restaurants and we start to see a bunch of restaurants. Now, do we see all the restaurants of the Netherlands? No, because I know plenty of restaurants in Almelo and Enschede. So this is one of the fascinating things about how Google is again making money. Like restaurants that are paying and investing into their ecosystem have more probability to see on a higher level, like when I'm zooming into all of the Netherlands or a specific city, which ones are going to pop up first. So, and that's where you get more clicks from. And and so on. Well, I think most people get the point here. Now that was restaurants. Now I would like to go back. That's a little tough. Okay, I close this one. And now the filters are gone. Okay, I zoom in and out again and the filters are there again. Now I can look for hotels. Same things. Notice that when I'm filtering all these hotspots, as we could call them, they have an icon. So here, this icon over here, this circle with this thing is representing a bed, someone sleeping. That's something to be aware of, to represent an icon of a hotel. And this same icon, when we're clicking this filter, is represented everywhere on these hotspots. Just in a different color, in this case red. And as we're hovering over those hotspots, we start to get a preview. So I'm not even clicking yet, so I can just move again with the mouse. And it shows me this without clicking. That's an important thing, that I do not have to click on everything, because a click represents a certain amount of energy that I need to put in as a user to see something. And a hover is just a very light way to get an impression of things. And when I'm convinced of the impression, so when I'm really looking at this and thinking yes, then I can click on it and open up all the extra details about this specific hotel. So keep in mind, hover, like so. And on each hotspot, it shows the icon combined with the price, so price in euros. Again, currency is also based on IP address. When I'm looking from Europe, I'll see euros. When I'm looking from the United States, I'll see US dollars. So keep in mind all the things that are happening on initialization of loading in Google Maps or your own virtual tour. What else we see over here is that all these hotspots, they do not have, they all have rounded corners, and they have one little pointy thing on the back, so like a tooltip type of thing. And so this is all circles, and then here there's a little bit of a point, but even the point is still rounded. That's something important to know. In designs, we barely see not rounded type of things. The 90 degrees thing, that is something that represents danger. So in our designs, we need to keep in mind that, let's see, I'll start drawing a little bit. Like right over there, we see that the point is going down, but even that part is rounded. Now these buttons, this is rounded. Even when the buttons are combined over here, rounded, and then here, they're not rounding to make sure that it's kind of together type of button, but it's not. So there are two buttons, but they show that they belong to each other. Rounded over here, this, even this, these things are rounded here. Everything is rounded, even the images are rounded. So when you want to make a good design of your virtual tour interface application, round everything. This is rounded. Like, I think this is one of the only things that might not be rounded, but it's so small that barely see it. Or maybe even 1 or 2 pixels rounded, I'm not sure. Right there. So yeah, that's something I wanted you guys to be aware of, that rounded corners are extremely important to create some sort of rest to things. As I'm zooming into the map, I'll start to see more hotels. Hotels that did pay Google, they will start to appear more, because they want to have all the hotels listed, but they only show the ones that, well, again, pay Google more. Here we see that certain types of things like this is a map pin. This is one of those things that Google has getting paid for by the company, in this case Museum de Fundatie or Avonturenpark Hellendoorn. They're paying to be listed and to be shown even earlier. Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna cancel this draw. So that is about the map. Zooming in, zooming out, seeing filters over here. Now, when we get into something more specific, so let's go to Deventer. And welcome to Deventer. Now we're in Google Street View. So from Google Maps, we enter Google Street View, different products, all integrated with each other. And about one of the first things that I notice as a virtual tour creator is I do not see navigation hotspots. I do not see one hotspot over here, one hotspot over here, one hotspot over here, one hotspot over there. Like we're used to as like working with 3D Vista to put up all these hotspots everywhere, and that's already not clean. How do you say that? Kind of dirty the screen, and they fill up the screen with a lot of information that might not be needed. Seeing a lot of icons, like what Google is doing over here. As you can see, you have on the mouse, I see the circle with the direction where the hotspot is kind of located. So that kind of turns, and we see on the screen over here. Even though people might not actively notice this little X, subconsciously people are seeing these things, and so on hovering we start to see the X, and that there's something that we can click here. And here, when we go further, here's another X. Here's another X. So now I know that I can go, I have already the sense of how many meters I'm going to go into the virtual tour, where I'm going to land. I know that I'm going to land in front of this thing over there. Let's see. So let's go there. And when I'm looking over here, boom, okay. This is one of the weird things about Google Maps, is that the time can shift. So we were just in a somewhat cloudy day, and now it's a very sunny day. Here we are in June 2023. I'm just going to go back like this. And here we are in March 2023. So that's a little bit of a strange thing. But again, this is one of the challenges that Google is facing. In order to map the whole world, you cannot have cars driving around all on the exact same day everywhere. And even when the car will be driving, then you're always having a differentiation in time. So it takes like 1 minute to arrive on the end to this bridge. So all these types of things are pretty fascinating to think about, because when thinking about time, you're making this virtual tour, the weather is changing, you might not finish the virtual tour the same day, but you still need to connect everything with each other. So even though we're in March 2023, we go over here, boom, June 2023. We have suddenly a sunny day, we can continue, and we see all these X's appearing with the mouse as we go on. Now, something interesting about this is to figure out, like, okay, how does this work on tablet and mobile, because we don't have a mouse there. But that's for another time. Something else about this is that when you're using this and you go through the street, you see that the whole panorama is transitioning from one to another. This is also something we have in 3D Vista, the dynamic transitions from one to another panorama. But the fascinating things about Google versus, let's say, 3D Vista is that Google has found their way to automate this whole process. In 3D Vista, you need to manually connect all these panoramas to each other and have them have these hotspots and the same type of things to calculate how they're relevant to each other and how to make that transition smooth. And that's still a lot of manual work to do so. Google has automated this. Matterport also has automated this whole process of the navigation of panoramas. That is very fascinating stuff to me to think about. how that happens, and all these type of design things that are happening in there. We see even on the street, Pothoofd. So the name of the street is embedded within the panorama. I mean, I don't see that often. Some people do this as well, but not as smooth as this. Like, you don't even read the whole street. Like, it's hard to read, like with your head going like this. But subconsciously you're saving all those type of things. And when you know the streets, it's like, oh yes, this is the Pothoofd street. Other fascinating things is the blurring of license plates. These things are happening automatically. We have people in the community that have created an automated license plate blur tool. So we have that stuff available that can be done there. Same with faces of people. When the cars are driving around, all the faces are automatically blurred to keep some sense of privacy from Google. That's another subject, the privacy of Google. You might say, okay, they're blurring the license plates, they're blurring the faces. That's great, that's good enough. Well, I mean, all the house owners, who gave Google permission to make a photo of your house? Now that's a very interesting question, I think, to think about. Google is just doing it, and it's kind of like, well, it's public, and when it's public and we can see it, then we can also have all these photos and make money with it, directly or indirectly. Now, some Germans, they are very much into privacy. Like, when you talk about Germans, they are very conscious about data, and there is some very fascinating video about a very small German village in the north from this guy. He's explaining all of this, how these people did not want their house to be on Google Street View, and how they blocked out the Google Street View cars from even capturing the things. They had at some point all types of politicians collecting awareness what Google is doing, and that's actually against the law. And so, I mean, you can see when you try to do Google Street View on Europe, you see that Germany is completely like almost empty there. That's how aware Germans are of their data and privacy. And that's something I find really fascinating. And this German village, they stood up against Google for a very, very long time. Unfortunately, eventually, also that village got on Google Street View. But they hold up very, very long time against them. And it made a lot of Germans aware that they can actually blur their houses from Google Maps. So if you don't want your house publicly available because of whatever reason, you don't want thieves to know how everything works or anything like that, or whatever your reason is, I mean, why would people need to see your house when you're building it, and that a company like Google is making money off the photos of your house? I mean, indirectly they are. So the interesting philosophical question here is, shouldn't it be that Google's making these photos, blurring all the houses as well by default, and asking each house owner if the house is allowed to be on Google Maps, and to offer something in return for that? Because now we're massively as a society just giving it away to a company like Google, and they can make 4.3 billion a year on revenue on everything that we just give to them as the people. That's stuff that I find really fascinating to think about, and how people are standing up against companies like Google. Interesting stuff to watch, I would say. About times, I already briefly mentioned it. This is from June 2023, but let's go back in time and see what is over here to go, so we can see latest date. Not a lot of people know about this function, and here we can actually just go back in time and see, okay, how was this in 2022, how was this in 2021, and so we can start to compare, like, okay, they have construction over here, here there's no construction. Now manually, like, looking at this, you can see, okay, there's no construction, there's construction. When you're thinking about this, there's AI object detections that can detect what is going on. Now, when you know that you have all this data from this year and past years, you can have like a timeline of every building and know exactly which type of companies, like even Hoge Boom Raalte, which companies are making the constructions, where they make all these constructions. And all of these things can be automatically generated by their AI that is learning about object detection, can connect all the companies to what is actually happening on a certain moment in time. And on top of that, they can go back in time up all the way to 2009, where this was still Driesentapijt. So, yeah, all the things that are visible in these panoramas over this time. You can see that there used to be parking over here in 2009. You needed to pay for that. And at some point, somewhere in time, they removed the parking and made it trees and something more like that. I mean, when you think about the incredible amount of data that already all these photographs are having, going back in time. This going back in time thing is something that a lot of construction companies are also doing, clients that I work with. They make these time machines to say, okay, of a building like this one, as this building is being built, from day one, first maybe there's only ground, so there's only that without the building, and then over time you start to see how the building is being built, and by collecting all this data every week or month consistently on the same positions, you have certain information that you as the owner of a building like this can always look back in time to see what was happening at a certain point in a certain corner of the building. And that is also some sort of insurance when you're talking about legal issues, when companies, constructors, contractors are having an argument against each other, like, well, we delivered the machine then, or we did not, and then to actually go back in time and see what happened. And what Google is doing over here, how that is relevant to each other, is that you have these type of interfaces to go back in time. And even when I'm going back in time, I can still navigate through this thing, keeping the same timeline. That is stuff to what I find really fascinating. So yeah, timelines, keeping the navigation there. Another thing is over here we see the little guy with a direction arrow, so the floor plan with direction to see where we're looking at on the map. So we see that we're looking at the water to get an idea, okay, that's this water. So with the mind, we're connecting what we see within the 360 with the map. And minds really like to think about a map as a first place to see where we are. Okay, from where we are, then we zoom into specifically what we're looking for. When we think we need this kind of tree structure to think and go into the things that we're looking for. And so the whole thing is to how to collect all of this data that is worldwide, all these Google cars driving around, and putting this all together over different time frames in one interface that is accessible by 1 billion people every month. Then I'm not even talking about all the bandwidth that is needed, hosting, providing this type of stuff. There is a lot of things that come with this. Yeah, I know, I'm already rattling a lot of time. I hope you guys find this interesting. I mean, if you're watching till this point, you definitely find this interesting. Thank you for hanging around. Let me know if you have any questions so far. Let them know in the comments or anything like that. Yeah. Other stuff I find really fascinating is, so there is, when we're in Google Street View, so we have the navigation, the arrow is pointing to this side of the street, or there it switches. Okay, so based on the corner of where I am within the panorama, it kind of stays the same. So there's somewhere a line where this changes, this arrow changes from left to right, because the street is by 2 directions here. That stuff I found really fascinating. And when we turn more, we see that this arrow, now the arrow is to the right, is if on the left side of the screen, still there, and I cannot go now to the left. So I need to have a certain angle of the panorama to go there. And so it doesn't matter where I click. It doesn't matter if I click here, if I click there. I mean, even in the sky I can click, even though I don't see an arrow. So no matter where I click within the 360, I'm navigating, unless I'm really clicking on like a hotspot of a shop. Now here are not so many shops. Let's see if we can find the center somewhere. Yeah, there we have something like a hotspot. Okay, so we have Meissen, Makelaars, Deventer. Okay, this one is permanently closed. Another one. Okay, we start to have a restaurant. So, hotspots within the 360s. Let's take a look at that. Look at how all the hotspots become super small when I start holding my mouse and look around. Like, oh, they even completely disappeared now because I kept it so long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So after 5 seconds, all the hotspots even disappear. I mean, I did not even notice that before. I'm noticing that right now. But I did notice that the hotspots become smaller when I'm doing this, and they become bigger when I let go. So when I let go, I have my rest, I have my view, and then I can make my selection. Do I want to have this type of, this is a more generic thing. This is a shop, like because of the shopping bag icon. This is a restaurant because of this little icon. When I'm taking away all these icons over there, so I'm gonna hold this for 5 seconds now, I do not see which one is the restaurant and which one is a shop based on the building that I'm looking at. That is fascinating how much the hotspot matters and the icon matters. So, because it's so generic. So now I know, okay, this is a restaurant. I hover over, the color changes, and it shows this little pop-up. Now you would say maybe over here, hey, this is square, like 90-degree squares without rounded corners. Wrong. There's still rounding in here. So even over here you can see a little rounding. So rounding, we see the title of the restaurant, Restaurant La Toscana Deventer, and somehow apparently we care most about the reviews. And so this has 4.2 out of 18 reviews, and based on that we can make a decision, is this good or is this not so good. This one apparently does not have an image to show. That's something other talking about, like having all this data of all these restaurants. Some restaurants you might have images, some restaurants you might not have the images. How do you make different cards based on what restaurants are providing to you? So as a virtual tour creator, when you're having this type of city idea to make a 360 city, having all these shops providing you all the information like titles and photos and stuff. Some might actually provide you the photos and sometimes you might not have the photo. Then you need to show a different type of pop-up based on what is available. Apparently this restaurant does not provide photos, so we only see this. This one neither, but we saw it before. Hey, see inside. That's the first time I'm seeing this back again. I'm used to seeing see inside right in the Google search results when we're actually searching for it. And apparently there is a see inside again. That's fascinating because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Where did that go? Well, apparently it went to there. What Google is doing, they're not only having their official Google cars driving around, they're also crowdsourcing and using many of us, virtual tour creators, to provide data to them, such as Tom Schmink is making a Google Street View tour of this pet store. to go around and stuff. And okay. Alright, well, let's see. I'm gonna go now into the center over here. Alright, so here we have Deventer. I cannot find anything with photos now. I had them before. I'll show that right now in Obsidian over here. Here's also no photo. Okay, doesn't matter. So hovering. Okay, so you hover over a hotspot over here. We see here the address of where the photo is taking place, the city, the province, and who made it. So this is an official Google photo made in August 2018. And here we go back to the map again. Okay. And here we go back to the 360 again. Now, this is something other that I find very fascinating. When you're having a pin, when you click somewhere on here, we start to see this overview and we start to see the 360 to get in. Okay. Okay. So we have this jewelry store, and we see an interface over here. They have 15 photos. They have the search bar on top of the photo. We can click on the photo to see larger. The name of the store, the amount of reviews again, what type of store this is. So this is a jeweler. I have an overview. So all these tabs are over here. Overview, reviews, and about. Notice how this whole thing is suddenly changing. The tabs to the top and all the other information is gone. So right now we only have the about and the reviews. When we go back to overview, we have this tab again. Again, the address, opening times, something that is, I think, very essential to a lot of people to have. And what we see about this drop down of opening times is something I found fascinating too, is that it shows based on the current time that I'm looking at this, hey, is this open? And it shows right away open or closed with green or red letters. So based on the current time you're watching this, it already gives you an answer. Is it right? Is it open or closed right now? That's without clicking here, it shows you. And the only information it shows, it doesn't show when the store is opening, like today. Like, I don't know, is that 9 o'clock that they're opening or 8 o'clock? It only shows it's open right now and it closes at 5:30 p.m. That's all I actually need to know. I mean, and if I really want to know more, I click on the drop down and then I see today's day, first order in the list with opening time and the closing time. So when I really want to know everything, I click on it and we have all the information. And today's day is usually the most important day because we're living right now and we want the information fast. So this one is fat, bold, and giving here all the information. And then it shows all the other days. And it shows Sunday is closed, Monday is closed. And if this is not necessarily accurate, that's something that a lot of people I see are struggling with, the perfectionism. So we think, because it's Google, that all of these times are accurate. And a lot of times might be accurate because people do not change their habits so often, but people do change their things from time to time. And Google is not actively communicating with all the business owners. I mean, if business owners want to be on Google Maps, they can get some communication with Google and get some questions so now and then, like, are your times still up to date or not? But a business owner, when they take a day off, they're not thinking, oh, I should also do this on Google Maps and really show that we're closed today. They just put up the sign outside the house or the store and say they're closed. Google doesn't know. And so you might actually end up in front of a closed store. So the information is like mostly accurate, not 100% accurate. And how they're doing this is like when people structurally change their times, business owners that are not even thinking about how they're represented on Google, then Google is basically saying over here, suggest new hours. So this means that anyone, the public, often going to the store, seeing that these times are off, can say suggest new hours. And when you're doing this, I need to sign in. So this is how Google verifies that I'm not just some bot or something like that, that I'm an active user in the first place, that I already have a Google account for 20 years or so. And those type of things say Google like, okay, this is like an actual user with experience with us, saying that the times are off. Now, the question is, does Google immediately change the times or not? Or are they waiting for someone else to also suggest the same with experience? And are they then changing the times on this type of thing? And what they're asking is, when you do the suggest new hours, I did it a while ago, you need to actually make like a photo of the store. So when you make a photo of the store where they put up the hours, then you send that photo to Google, and Google says, okay, well, that's good enough because you actually made a picture. We can see that the picture is taking place in the same store as how it looks with our latest logs. And based on that, okay, we believe you. And so even from not the business owner, but from clients of the business owner or anyone just putting in the energy to improve this, is this is how they get the data. Phone numbers do not often change. And yeah, so there's a lot of things over here. First of all, so in this tabs, we have different tabs. It's tabs within tabs, even though you might not recognize it as tabs and tabs, but it is. Because now we can click on directions and we go here. We can click on save. We need to be signed in. And this is one of the ways to really collect all this data. So you show already the features, and when you actually need to save this to your account, then you sign in and then you create your account, and you're being tracked automatically again passively, because most people do not look into incognito in Google. Nearby, I'm not entirely sure about this function actually. This one is new to me. So they are saying top time, and nearby top time is usually where is the closest hotel. Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's interesting, maybe not. In any case, send to phone. Again, need to be signed in, and on the phone as well, I need to be signed in. And we have the share button. Notice that the URL here is maps/place/top time Duolier, and then the longitude, latitude, and all other types of data that is a little bit more unknown here. We can share this long link, but people don't like to have long links, so you have the URL shortener. That is something fascinating, I think, to think about too. Like, do they have these shortened link already when a business appears and they create this page, or do they create the link to share on the moment that's the first person is requesting this in the first place? That's things I'm thinking about. Okay, I can copy the link, I can open this here, and when I go to the link, I get the same URL. Let's see, 678, yeah, exactly the same. And that map, if I want this to be on a website, and yeah. Man, I feel like I've been talking a lot. And all the stuff that they're doing here, add missing information, add a website. So, okay, sign in to report this. As a random user, I can suggest those type of things, and Google has a way to, probably with AI nowadays, just automatically check if those things are valid or not, and add it as things go. There is a lot of more things to talk about this, but I do hope that you've caught up a few things here and there with what they're doing and how to represent the right amount of information to the user. And yeah, I don't know. And let me know if you're curious to hear more about these type of Xray type of videos. Me just rambling out loud, talking about this type of stuff. Is that interesting to you or not? Feel free to let me know in the comments. And wish you all a great day. Alright, bye.